Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about the distortion effects on the vocal stacks at the end of my song, Politico Protest Song, circa 1943. I've tried playing it before and usually Logic just freezes on me. So I'm gonna play the song like now.
If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and no man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and no man? No. If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man?
Anyway, let me isolate the lead vocals, and really what I think makes the difference is I have this bus 176, and this is going to fat effects, and I have distortion, a band pass, a compressor, and soft limiting all happening in parallel with the relatively dry lead and vocals, right? I must also mention, I then opened up bus 176 as its own track. So track 33 here, the input is bus 176, so I can process bus 176 independently, right? And then I can print automation onto it. So let's open up my automation and let's watch what happens to fat effects as the lead vocals play.
If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man? No. If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death and one man?
Gnarly. Okay, so essentially, I am automating the distortion drive, although it's really not doing much. The way I did this is you go into read here and you set it to touch. Essentially, what touch will do is as you're playing the song, any parameter you change, it'll automatically write in the automation for. You just have to be really careful to set it back to read the moment you're done. Otherwise, you'll be editing things and it'll actually be creating automation for you, which can be a real pain. Okay, so I set it to touch, and then just one at a time, I brought up my vari-drive knob, or I brought up my saturation knob, or I kind of just move this around the XY zone. And I played it through a couple of times, and I stopped at the one that I liked most. The really cool thing about this X and Y bandpass filter is the fact that you're adjusting two EQs at the same time. You're adjusting the low cut, but you're also adjusting the high cut. And so you can make some really quick and interesting EQ shifts with just a simple womp womp. So let's listen, where's a good spot? Let's listen here.
Beating to death and one man.
Yeah, you hear that EQ sweep as which one's this? As the low cutoff gets higher and the high cutoff gets lower. So that's really just the lead vocals. Let's talk about this telephonic double here. Essentially what I did is copy and paste the lead vocal. So not send a bus, like I actually just copy and pasted the audio files. And then I threw on this cinematics origin and the tape Mellowfi from Arturia, and let's listen to what this sounds like.
WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
Alright, and now let's listen to it without these two.
Then WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
Alright, so it gives it that like nice vintage feel. Another important part is this little altar boy. So little altar boy changes the formant. It can do other things too, but I have it changing the formant. So let's listen to it without.
And WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
And now with.
And WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
It makes it sound like a completely different person is singing it, which is really useful when you are like me and you record all of your vocals yourself and you want it to sound thicker and you want it to sound like you have friends. Okay, we have this bit crusher here. So this bit crusher, I am a sucker for automation, and I will oftentimes either automate the bus track itself, like changing the parameters of the effects on the bus, or I will automate the send going to the bus. So in this case, I automated the send.
And WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man. No. If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man. If there was a reason, if there was a plan.
Alright, and now let's put it together with the lead vocals. Let's start like here.
And WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man. No. If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
So it's really clean, but also adding a bit of that like uneasy, edgy chaos that you want. Alright, now let's go to the doubles. Woo! Actually, I can just solo the doubles here. Okay. Let's mute the telephonic lead.
There is a reason, if there is a plan, then WhatsApp was beating to death in the home, man.
Oh.
If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then WhatsApp was beating.
Okay. Anyway, like I said, I love automation. I call this analog automation. I actually just sang it like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And each time I tried to sing it a little bit differently with like maybe different inflections, maybe a different accent, maybe like different ways of pronouncing my S, like the sh or like the ts, or maybe different emotions, right? And then getting increasingly aggressive as it went on. And then also throwing some pitch correction on there. I almost never put pitch correction on my lead vocals, nor do I melodyne. But I do like pitch correction in situations like this because it makes the backing vocals a bit tighter, especially when I was singing more for vibe and for aesthetic than for accuracy, right? Like I really wanted to get that melodramatic, sad, angsty, what's going on in the world vibe out of my vocals without having to worry about, okay, am I singing in tune with the 9 other tracks present? Okay, I did automate a bit of the sends here. So what did I automate? I automated send 3. My send 2 reverb. I automated my send, both sends to reverb. Okay. So essentially what I did here is I brought down the volume while drenching it in reverb, and that fills the space without becoming increasingly loud, right? Because if reverb is a duplicate of the signal, then the more reverb you have, the louder it's going to be. And so I like to compensate. I'm big on compensating. The other thing, after the first pass through, I then recorded high doubles.
There was a reason. If there was a plan, then what step was bleeding to death in the whole man?
No automation on those, but I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks. So let's count, right? We have 6 high vocals, then we have, doggy. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 6 plus 12 is 18. So we have 18 backing vocals all panned in addition to this telephonic double, which is a direct copy and paste of my lead vocals and the lead vocals. So it's about 20 vocals, right? I'm going to play all the vocals, all 20 vocals without any effects. I mean, there's still some like EQ and imaging and processing, but no distortion.
If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death in the whole man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death in the whole man? No. If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death in the whole man? If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to death in the whole man?
Alright, now I'm going to play you all of it with the processing.
If there was a reason, if there was a plan, then what step was beating to...
That's pretty much it for the vocals, at least. Yeah, I mean, for me, distortion in this section is all about subtlety, and it's all about modulation and automation, like changes over time. Otherwise, I think it just gets really grating and repetitive, which is why you should lean into your automation, lean into your bus sends, lean into copying your buses out as tracks, lean into automating your bus sends, lean into automating the effects on your bus sends, lean into copying audio tracks to like process them in parallel. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean literally you take this, you like duplicate the track, you take the audio files, you copy them down, and then you can like change the effects separately. Thank you for being a part of my first video tutorial. I hope this helped.